big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. He's a very powerful man and he heads one of the most powerful communication conglomerates in the world. It's been 18 months since he's taken over, and boy oh boy, he has the toughest challenge of his entire career already staring him right in the face. I'm talking about none other than the CEO of WPP, Mark Reed. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining me right here on Brand Equity. Truly a pleasure.
Thanks very much, Sonali. And after that introduction, we're going to have a lot to talk about, I guess.
I want to first start with talking about, you at the helm of WPP. It's been 18 months and the last 3 months have been horrific, I'm sure, to say the least. How have you been grappling with it, at the helm of this large ship and trying to navigate it through these very, very tough and rocky waters and really unthinkable waters, if I may add?
Yeah, I think that over the last 18 months, we've done a lot at WPP to simplify the company, to put us in a stronger position financially, to integrate our sort of digital activities into the broader mainstream of the company. And I think we came into this situation in a much stronger position. We have our lowest net debt the last 10 years. And so I think the last 3 months have had their challenges. There's no doubt about that. But I think to some extent, we were much better prepared than perhaps we could have been otherwise. Now, our people, I think, have done a fantastic job. March 16th, we sent close to 100,000 people, to work from home over a weekend, including all of our close to 8,000 people in India. And, I think they really performed extremely well in challenging circumstances. And when I talk to other business leaders, I think they'd say the same of their people. And I think it's amazing what technology has allowed us to do that perhaps 5 or 10 years ago, this would have been a much more challenging problem, I think.
In terms of just how the business has performed, yes, the first quarter results are out, and yes, we've seen a drop as expected. Q2 is going to be a bloodbath, and we know that across sectors, and I think WPP is no exception. How are you prepping for that? What are your expectations? Where do you see the big bleed from? And where are you course correcting going forward into Q3 and Q4?
Yeah, look, I think that most commentators would expect the second quarter to be the toughest quarter of the year, and I think that will be our current expectation. We clearly don't know what's going to happen in the second half of the year. Will there be a second wave? And there are some worrying indicators of that at the moment, particularly in the United States, and hence you see the market sell off on Thursday. I think from our perspective, we have in a global business, a good sense of what's going on around the world. We can see countries coming into the situation, and we can see them coming out. And clearly WPP is going to be impacted, like every business, by this. I mean, I have to say, I think we're in a fortunate position. We're not an airline or a hotel chain that simply can't operate. Actually, we can operate pretty effectively. We also have a range of different clients, and many of our clients, I wouldn't say are benefiting from this, but many of our clients are less impacted, particularly in the FMCG sector or the technology sector, in some cases even seeing increases in demand for their products. So, we are, really sort of navigating it, I'd say, quarter by quarter. And rather than trying to sort of predict what's going to happen, I think we have to be ready to respond, in a very agile way to, the stresses and strains caused by the global economic downturn. And I have to say, I am concerned, even as we come out of the coronavirus situation, about the impact on the overall economy. So we are, I'd say, pretty cautious.
One thing you said, which has piqued my interest, where you said we're not in a terrible position because, FMCG clients are doing well and they're spending. Are they really spending on advertising is my question, because I think from this one lesson that has been learned is that people do not have business continuity plans. I think that has been exposed. And cash conservation is, the main priority right now. So in such a situation, if you're telling me clients are spending, it's good news.
No, I mean, clearly spending is down across the board. I think no one's going to be naive enough to expect clients to increase spending at this time. But what I would say is that clients continue to communicate with their customers, recognize the need to communicate to their customers. And I'd say, there's 3 reasons to be marketing at the moment. The first is to tell your customers what you're doing to protect them and your people. The second is actually the company's in a strong position. TV viewing's up 50%, prices are lower. It's a good time to gain market share over your competition. And there are some companies in a strong position who are increasing their share of voice at the current time. And the third, I think in many ways the most important, is we're sort of living through the greatest period of innovation almost in history, I would imagine, in such a short period of time. And so those companies that are in the market, shifting money probably to digital channels, as you say, I think will learn a tremendous amount, and I think they'll be ready to come out of it in a much stronger position. So, look, we're not telling our clients to increase spending. We're not naive in that sense. But what we are saying is, I think, to look for the opportunities in this situation, and make sure that you're ready for the recovery, and you're ready to rethink your business as well.
Are you remodeling WPP in terms of how it's going to look like once the world starts reviving slowly and steadily? Is there something you're thinking internally in terms of how you want to remodel this big ship?
I think that when we set out the strategy, or the new strategy for WPP in December 2018, we called it a radical evolution, and I think we use the term radical to mean that we'd think about everything. But evolution, I think, to say that we'd move as quickly as the pace of the business could absorb. We are a people business, and I think we've actually moved pretty quickly over the last 18 months. We've sold Kantar, we've merged Wunderman and J. Walter Thompson, and VML and Young and Rubicam to create new integrated businesses with digital at their heart, able to give modern clients what they need. So we've made tremendous progress in simplifying WPP. I think the trends that we're seeing, they're not new trends. They're really an acceleration of what was taking place in the past. And so I think that this will give us sort of renewed emphasis to continue to accelerate the transition of WPP, to invest more in creativity because the power of ideas are not going away, to put technology more at the heart of our business, to continue to simplify our operations and invest in talent.
Where do you think you're going to get beaten the most? And when I mean you, I mean WPP in particular, but of course, all holding companies. Which parts do you think, when we come out of this pandemic, will be deemed redundant, and which will actually flourish, in your view?
Well, I think that, I hesitate to say this, but I don't think any part of WPP will be deemed to be redundant. If you look across our business, I think that now we've taken, I think, somewhat difficult decisions to integrate the businesses. I think that all of our major agency networks have both the creative and technology capabilities to provide modern clients with what they wanted. I think if we were still a sort of old-fashioned legacy advertising business that focused on television, analog television, and print media, I'd be concerned. But that's not what we are, and that's not what we are, what we offer our clients. So I think that clearly parts of the business like event management are going to face a tougher time. But I think if you look across what we're doing to help clients to connect using digital channels, Google is our second largest client. We are a very modern and technology-led, digital at our heart organization, and we've broken down all of those silos that existed before, and this sort of artificial notion that part of the company was digital and part of the company was analog, which I think was part of the problem and the reason that we got into the situation that we got ourselves into. So I think we've made difficult decisions, and I think that our media business is a fantastic business. It's a fantastic business in India, and Srini heads up Group M, as you know, and I think it's a very valuable partner to clients trying to navigate a very fast-changing media landscape. Our creative agencies are extremely strong. Ogilvy, Wunderman Thompson, VML Y&R. The first two particularly strong in India. Our public relations businesses actually have been in great demand during the pandemic as clients have sought ways to communicate with their people and with decision makers. And I think that will continue to strengthen.
WPP has announced a £2 billion plan to save its balance sheet. Could you take me through, what are the broad contours of that plan?
Yeah, so I think that, coming into the year, as I mentioned earlier, with the sale of Kantar, we came into the year with our net debt around £1.5 billion, the lowest level for more than a decade. At the same time, we are a significant organisation, and I think we took the prudent decision to suspend our share buyback and our dividend until we had greater clarity on what how the year would turn out. I'm not an epidemiologist, and I don't want to predict the future or risk the company's future. based on what may or may not happen. So I think that the key goal is to make sure that the company is financially resilient and financially strong, and that involved sort of strengthening the balance sheet and making sure that we had the capital we need to be able to continue to work for clients and fund our needs. And I think that that is where we are today, and I think that helps us sleep at night, if you like, while we manage what we need to manage on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. If I had to ask you, in the last 18 months, when you've been the captain of the WPP ship, and juxtapose that with Martin Sorrell's regime, what is the 2 or 3 things you have completely done differently, which is what you've brought to the table, and not Martin's ideology?
You're not going to draw me into a discussion of comparisons, Sonali, but I think that what we try to do is build a company with a strong culture, with a strongly collaborative culture, and that's really been a major focus of ours. I think the recent racial tensions in the United States and around the world show the importance of putting culture at the heart of an organization. I think that's something we've been really focused on doing. I think that the current pandemic has shown that the company can come closer together, and that people do like to collaborate and do want to work together. And I think that's really been kind of one major emphasis. We've also tried really to integrate technology into the heart of our business. And to some extent, while we're looking at the future, we also want to look a bit at the past and put creativity back into the heart of WPP. I mean, we are ultimately, I think, a creative organization, and creative power and the power of ideas is what makes WPP special as an organization. I think it's what makes our clients value us. I certainly hear that from the chief executives and CMOs of our largest clients, the power of ideas. And I think that really has to be our focus. We have Piyush in India, a fantastic creative leader at the helm of Ogilvy's creative efforts. And I think we look at some of the work comes out of the Indian market, and it's really strong. And I think that's why clients come to us. If we are, and I think we will be competing with consulting firms in the future, have to focus on what we do best. And I think that is an understanding of the power of ideas. Now, at the same time, we need to understand the return on investment, data and analytics, how technology connects them with people. But I think that we can do all of that. And to my mind, that's what makes WPP special. It's certainly what makes our people, 107,000 people around the world, excited when they come into work. And I think ultimately is what our clients employ us for. And I think, if there's one element of, my legacy when it comes to that time, I'd be most proud of is we can really transform WPP into a really strong, creative organization that people, really believe in. And I think that will be, that's really a priority.
That's a pretty noble legacy to leave behind. And, given the size, it's a mammoth task that's cut out for you. Having said that, one man's opinion is large conglomerates such as yours are going to find it very difficult to navigate through this crisis. And smaller companies, and I'm really talking about Martin here, smaller companies such as his and many others are agile enough to repivot and remodel themselves, depending on the need of the hour. Would you be in agreement with that? Do you think that statement holds some credibility?
What do you think, Sonali? Look, I think it's clearly more difficult to transform a larger organization than a smaller organization. But that doesn't mean that, having an organization the size and scale of WPP doesn't also give us, tremendous benefits. The ability to serve clients around the world, the ability to answer a broader set of requirements. So I think that actually we have tremendous assets and scale. I think we transformed WPP significantly over the last 18 months. If you look at our results, and if I had one frustration, it's if you look at the numbers first 2 months of the year, you can see the company grew globally with the exception of China. You can see a much improved performance in the United States. So the key task that we needed to do, we were on track with, and I think the integrated agencies we created was showing strong growth. So, I don't accept the premise that a business like WPP doesn't have significant value. We are substantially profitable. And I think that for modern clients, looking to succeed with a broad range of needs, having a company of the size and scale of WPP, absolutely, we are the partner that they need for the future. And I was on a call with a client last night, one of our largest clients. We had the best evaluation. They said they went back 5 years. We had the best evaluation in the last 5 years, and actually the best evaluation that they can remember. So, I think we are making tremendous progress against that transformation agenda, and I think we can continue to do that.
What do you think in terms of markets? You're sitting in a position that will give you a good bird's eye view on which markets will, be better performing than the rest, simply depending on how well countries are handling the virus or how susceptible they are. In your opinion, going forward, which ones are likely to be getting back and running and delivering for business?
Look, I think we have to differentiate between short term and long term. I think in the short term, markets like India have clearly been impacted by the scale of the lockdown and the reduction in economic activity. But I still think that India is a fantastic market and will continue to grow and power ahead in the future. And look, the financial markets are looking through this. I think most CEOs would say probably too much looking through the current challenges. But I think that they can look through it. So I think as a leader, you have to do the same thing. And so I would place my bets on markets like India. You certainly can't rule out the strength of the US economy. And despite maybe some short-term challenges, clearly that's an important market. And the great strength of WPP is our global footprint. We have around about a third of our business in the United States, a third in Western Europe and the UK, and a third in the rest of the world. And I think that does give us a great strength and diversity. And we had our Global Exco come to India actually just before the lockdown, and we saw the quality of the businesses, quality of the leadership, and a number of chief executives come and talk to us about the work that we're doing. And it's really fantastic work. It's both creatively strong, it's technologically strong. India, I think, can be a real powerhouse at the heart of our technology transformation and deliver technology solutions to the rest of the world, actually. And we're looking to strengthen and rationalize our base there.
What are the three most pressing things right now on your mind that you're most focused on, that's possibly giving you sleepless nights?
First, we have to manage the day-to-day, right? How are we going to deal with the situation, get our costs in line with revenue? How are we going to help service our clients? How are we going to look after our people and make sure that they're fit and healthy, particularly mentally healthy through this pandemic? How are we going to do what we can to help the communities in which we live and work? So that's the short term. Then I think we need to think about how we reinvent and renew our business. The question you asked me about how WPP will look in the future. What can we learn from COVID and take forward? Flexible ways of working, looking again at how we use our campuses. And I still believe that people will be in offices, but clearly not in as big offices as they had before. We have to then think about new ways of using those offices. So I think that it's, I know one CEO who's sort of taken his management team and said, okay, half of it's going to focus on today and half of it's going to focus on tomorrow. And I think that's the challenge for all of us. And I think, one of the challenges of working from home and remotely like this is the future stuff, to some extent, is harder to do, but it's no less essential just because it's difficult.
Three predictions of Mark Reed's that we see in the future, 2021. Let's say 2020 we give for survival and revival. 2021, where will the world have changed forever? And if yes, what is it that we're gearing up for?
Look, I think that we're gearing up, for recovery and renewal. I think that it's hard to make specific predictions, but I think we can predict, if you like, the world will be very different. We've been through, 12 to 14 weeks of tremendous change. I think e-commerce sales in grocery in India are 4 times what they were pre-pandemic. So clearly, the way we shop is going to be changed forever. You look at the growth of cashless payments, the way we pay is going to be changed forever. Education, my kids have been homeschooled for the last, 3 months, and I think that that may continue even, into the back half of the year. So we are seeing, tremendous changes in the world, and I think when we come out of this, the office, the high street, the retail landscape, everything is going to be transformed, and we need to get, I'd say, consumer and business confidence to grow, because we do have to get the economy working again at the same time as we do need to protect people's health.
Do you see a decline in labor markets?
There's a theory in economics, I think it's called the sort of the lump of labour fallacy, that sort of implies that with technology innovation, the absolute number of employees goes down. I think the challenge is not in the long term sort of employment levels. I think the challenge in the long term is how it's caused by the disruption that's taking place, and there will be new jobs, but there'll be different jobs from the jobs that they replaced, and so it's really about how we retrain our labour force much more than anything else.
Sure. Last question before I let you go. How are you, envisaging the global supply chain? Do you think globalization is going to be impacted? Will more and more countries look within? Or do you think there will be a new global pecking order in supply chain?
I think most companies will value a more diverse supply chain. I think in the initial stages, there's a lot of commentary that companies that were dependent on China, were in a difficult situation, and then as we came out of COVID, they're in a better situation. So I think that we will continue, I hope, to see integration of the world through trade. I've no doubt that governments will think about sort of strategic industries like pharmaceuticals and makers of PPE, protective equipment, and think about how they can secure supply chains in their local countries. And probably that's something that they should have done before this pandemic. So I think that everyone's going to be wise after the event and look at their supply chains. But I don't think that this will lead to the end of globalization. I think there'll be some rebalancing around the edges, and clearly the long-term trends in terms of the growth of the big Asian economies, India and China, is going to continue, and their relative share of world GDP will continue to grow. And I think that the world will be rebalanced in that way, and there'll be tensions and strains as that takes place. But I think we have to be positive about the outlook for the economy as we come out of this, even though I think it's going to be quite a gradual recovery.
Well, on that note, Mark, I want to wish you all the very best. To have a very, very tough task cut out in front of you, given that you are responsible for so many people. I also wish you all the very best for WPP's, route going forward in these very, very trying times. And all the best to you, your health and wealth. Stay safe, and thank you very much for joining me right here on Brand Equity.
Great. Thanks very much, Sonali. I really appreciate it.